Senator Fisher. Senator King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, two observations. One is the important day in U.S. history that this represents. 202 years ago, the state of Maine joined the Union, and I just wanted to note that. Secondly, I'm sorry that our ranking member has gone, because there's no senator that knows more about Africa than Senator Inhofe, and has committed more time and effort and diplomatic and outreach to that continent. And I just wanted to recognize that, as this may be the last posture hearing involving Africa, that he's still a member of this committee. A couple of questions to follow up on Senator Fisher's questions, General McKenzie. What's the status of the ALOC with Pakistan, and do we have any understanding whatsoever with regard to the ALOC for a kinetic strike as opposed to ISR?
So right now we are flying up the ALOC to conduct our ISR. For further discussions on that, Senator, I'd really prefer to go into the closed session, and I'll be able to answer your questions very directly in that session. Okay.
Can you give us, and I know we're going to talk about this in closed session, but since our leaving of Afghanistan late last summer, compare ISIS and al-Qaeda, because the Taliban is hostile to ISIS, not so hostile to al-Qaeda. Is the Taliban maintaining pressure on ISIS?
The Taliban is attempting to maintain pressure on ISIS. They're finding it difficult to do so. ISIS has been able to execute some high-profile attacks, even in Kabul, over the last several months. We're coming out of the winter. Traditionally, this would now begin the fighting season. It is my expectation that ISIS attacks will ramp up in Afghanistan as we go into the summer. And you are correct. You know, the Taliban is going to go after ISIS. They've done so in the past. But it's going to be a tough fight. They did not help themselves, they being the Taliban, when they released a number of prisoners from Palacharki and Parwan, over 1,000 ISIS fighters that reverted back to the group and significantly empowered the group within Afghanistan. And now they're going to reap the results of that action. So I think that's a problem for the Taliban. As for al-Qaeda, but I think they're much less firm on the al-Qaeda issue in terms of opposing them and being able to limit them, although they have done some things publicly that would tend to make you think they at least want to send the signals that they're doing. And I'll talk a little more about that in the closed session.
Thank you. I want to return to the Chairman's opening questions about Iran. A deal, by definition, is something where there are things on both sides, advantages and disadvantages. One side gives up something, one side gains something. How do you assess, let's assume for a moment that there is a renewed JCPOA which significantly limits Iran's nuclear capability for the foreseeable future, for some period of years. At the same time, sanctions are relieved in some way that enables them to have additional resources, which they could put into their malign activities in the region. Would you view that as a reasonable trade-off? In other words, realizing you can't have everything, do you view a nuclear Iran as more dangerous than an Iran with more money in their pockets?
Well, Senator, as you know, CENTCOM is the land of less than perfect solutions. So I'm always comfortable with a less than perfect solution. It is an overriding national policy objective of the United States for Iran to not have a nuclear weapon and be able to possess a nuclear weapon. So I think that's a very important goal, and you might have to make some trade-offs to get to that point. But as at the military level, my concern is, first of all, that they not have that nuclear weapon, but I am also very concerned about the remarkable growth in number and efficiency of their ballistic missile force, their UAV program, their long-range drones, and their land attack cruise missile program. All of those concern me.
That was going to be my next question. What's our current assessment, if we can do this in an unclassified setting, of the range of Iranian missiles? In other words, can they get to Paris? Can they get to London? Can they get to New York? Are they simply a regional weapon?
They have over 3,000 ballistic missiles of various types, some of which can reach Tel Aviv, to give you an idea of range. None of them can reach Europe yet, but over the last 5 to 7 years, Senator, they have invested heavily in their ballistic missile program. Their missiles are of significantly greater range and significantly enhanced accuracy. We saw that in the attack on al-Assad in January 2020, where their missiles hit within tens of meters of the targets they were intended to hit.
General Townsend, any buyer's remorse, or I should say borrower's remorse in Africa with regard to the relationship of these countries to China? Are they Is there any, well, I think borrower's remorse is the right phrase, second thoughts about these relationships?
Senator, I would say yes. We see that across the continent. So when, as you're familiar, when China started investing heavily in Africa, this term debt trap diplomacy was born. I think
call it debt colonialism.
That's another way of saying it as well. I think the our African partners, by and large, are very well aware of that, and the countries that we see still hewing to China are those that, well, they're not well governed, or they're autocrats. So I think there is a growing awareness of that, and we're seeing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King. Senator Rounds, please.